Chapter 1281. The woman's voice was so delicate that her short utterance sent shivers down Wayne's spine. Wayne felt his body turning numb. Looking up, Wayne saw the faint steam hanging in the air around the hot springs. A man wearing a half mask on his face was pinning a woman under him. The woman's floral dress had an open design, revealing her slender neck and shoulders, but it also managed to hide the important parts perfectly. Her long legs were wrapped around the man's waist, and the man had raised her hands above her head. Ethan's lips were positioned at her neck. This was an extremely suggestive scene, no matter how Wayne looked at it. When the woman heard the sounds of the door getting kicked open, she was startled as she looked at the entrance. She looked like a frightened deer. Her beautiful dark eyes were filled with fear as she hid herself in Ethan's embrace. Grabbing the clothes that were strewn about on the floor, Ethan put them over the woman's body. It happened very quickly, but for an instant, Wayne saw the woman's chestnut-colored hair falling onto her pretty shoulder bones. It was extremely seductive. She wrapped her arms tightly around Ethan's neck. She looked like she was terribly frightened as she parted her red lips, saying, "Ethan. It's okay, darling." Ethan grabbed a towel and wrapped her body in it. The look in his eyes was extremely foul. With one hand, he pulled Olivia tightly into his embrace. Helping her up, he said in a cold voice, "Wayne, I think you should explain yourself." Wayne examined the barefooted woman. A portion of her slender legs was exposed. Her chestnut-colored hair was gently draped across her shoulders. Her makeup was exquisite, and her eyebrows were brown as well. It complemented her fair skin perfectly. She looked just like a princess in a fairy tale, and she didn't look like Ophelia at all. After all, every time Olivia talked to him, she treated him harshly. She had never been so gentle like this. "Sorry. Due to my carelessness, 2 thieves broke into the hot springs. I worry that they might have disturbed your enjoyment." Ethan kicked over the coffee table with fruits on it. "Do you think you can settle things with just an apology? You barged in with your men in the middle of the night. Is this how you Carathians treat your guests?" The war was about to break out, and Wayne was in the wrong this time. When he realized that the delicate woman in Ethan's arms wasn't Ophelia, he had mixed feelings in his heart. By the looks of it, Ethan didn't intend to settle things peacefully. Olivia's whole body was clinging to him, and she said in a gentle voice, "Ethan, calm down. It's probably just a misunderstanding. Just let them leave, okay? With me like this." Her face was filled with embarrassment and awkwardness. Ethan held her even tighter as he comforted her softly. "All right, I'll tell them to leave right away. Don't be mad, Liv." With that, he glared at Wayne. "Heard that? Get lost." Wayne didn't want to give up, but he didn't have a reason to stay. So, he could only leave with his men. After closing the door, he hastily walked away with a cold look on his face. His mind was filled with Olivia's face, which didn't look like Ophelia's at all. Her neck was clean, and it didn't have the marks Ike mentioned. He could also vaguely see a tattoo of a red flower on her chest. Ophelia didn't have any tattoos on that spot. All this was evidence that that woman wasn't Ophelia, but he had a feeling that the woman was suspicious. "I want all the information on this woman." "Understood. Don't let down your guard. If it isn't her, then that woman must still be hiding in the hot springs. Get some women to search every room. I'll find her." Eventually, Wayne returned to his room. The piece of paper Olivia left behind was still on the floor. He sat down, his emotions in a mess, as he listened to the sounds of rain outside. "Mr. Maxwell, I got the information. Please have a look." Alan carefully stood beside him. Chapter 1282. The information on Olivia was easy to get. Soon, everything in her past was revealed to Wayne. She was the pampered young lady of the Fordham family. She was a genius student, but she dropped out for the sake of a man. A few years into their secret marriage, the two constantly had disputes. In the end, they divorced. A few years ago, she found out that she had cancer. At her sickest moment, she completely disappeared from Aldenvine. Some people said that she was dead a long time ago, but some also said that she had retreated into the mountains to await her death. In those 3 years or so, Ethan never gave up on looking for her. Wayne had heard about this as well. However, when Wayne saw Ethan's ex-wife for the first time, she looked as pretty as a tender flower. And at first glance, he wanted to crush her mercilessly. Judging by the conflict between the two and Olivia's history, Olivia couldn't have been Ophelia. Wayne wondered if he had really gotten the wrong idea. Ophelia could have changed her hair color, and the marks on her neck could have been concealed. Even some assassins can disguise their faces exquisitely. After reading the information on Olivia, Wayne began to doubt himself. Ethan loved her to bits, so how could he allow her to do something so dangerous? What was she trying to get? If she wanted money, power, or status, she had already obtained them a long time ago. The ring was precious, but it wasn't of any use to Arlandia. If the two countries seriously got into a war, Arlandia would use weapons to destroy the base instead of taking the risk to get the ring. The person who wanted the ring was trying to sneak into the base. It had nothing to do with Ethan. Mr. Maxwell, it's a good thing that Ike took the ring back and gave it some upgrades. Only we know that it has an extra self-destruction program. The information hasn't leaked yet, so we haven't lost anything. By the looks of it, the person who wants the ring is right beside us. They only had to make a new ring to replace the destroyed one. Indeed, their losses weren't too great. But their enemy had sent a woman to infiltrate their ranks. This was an act that had cruelly destroyed Wayne's pride, so Wayne refused to let them off the hook. Gazing at the documents in his hands, Wayne asked, "Did Ethan bring family members with him this time?" "I went to verify it just now." Even though his ex-wife hadn't shown herself before, Ethan had indeed come with a woman. Alan added, "Everyone online says that his ex-wife hated him to the core. But now, that may not be the case. They seem to be quite in love with each other. Either way, just keep looking. You have to find that woman as soon as possible." "Understood." Lightning streaked across the sky again, lighting up the whole night sky. Wayne's pale face looked like a ghost. Meanwhile, in the hot springs, Olivia leaned against Ethan's embrace like a well-behaved kitten. The ripples on the whaler's surface had turned calm. Seeing that Ethan wasn't speaking up, Olivia took the initiative to wrap her arms around his neck. "You're still mad." Ethan's well-defined features looked even colder under the dim lights. When he lowered his gaze to look at Olivia, the look in his eyes was cold as well. When he traced a finger across the temporary tattoo on Olivia's chest, he said in a low voice, "Liv, how far have you gone with him?" Faced with Ethan's murderous gaze, Olivia only had to explain gently, "The most revealing clothing I've worn around him is the suspenders. He never saw anything, I swear." Wayne had seen her in suspenders before, so he was very sure that there were no tattoos on her chest. That was exactly why she put on the temporary tattoo. She wanted to break Wayne's impression. Olivia rubbed the tip of her nose against him. "You've examined me, haven't you? Why do you still refuse to believe me?" She raised her fingers. "If you don't believe me, I swear to the heavens that Ethan is the only man I've ever had in my life. If I betray him, I'll die." Ethan sealed her lips, deepening the kiss as he said, "Liv, I believe you." Chapter 1283. It rained heavily throughout the night. The sky was just beginning to turn bright when Ethan glanced at the woman who was sound asleep in his arms. He gently pulled the blanket away. Under the blanket, the woman's bare body was filled with marks he had left on her. When Ethan moved, Olivia woke up as well. She covered her chest with the blanket as she gazed at the man smoking in the yard. There was a lonely air about him. Grabbing a bathrobe, she put it on before walking barefoot toward Ethan. She wrapped her arms around his neck from behind. "What's the matter?" Ethan immediately put out his cigarette. Then, he pulled her into his arms and hugged her, mumbling, "Liv." He had finally experienced for himself how Olivia felt in the past. He was constantly wrought with worry, and he felt as if the person in front of him might disappear at any moment. His fingers traced downward from her eyebrows. He seemed intent on carving her face into the depths of his mind forever. "Are you really Liv?" Ethan's gaze was a little lost. "I'm hugging you right now, but you don't feel real at all." Olivia guided his fingers, placing them on her chest so that he could feel her heartbeats. Is this still not real enough? When Ethan looked at her, his gaze was akin to a foggy mountain in the rain. He had a faint sadness to him. Olivia had known Ethan for many years, but she had never seen him like this. Ethan, what exactly happened to you? Ethan gazed at her meaningfully. In the end, he didn't say anything. He just let out a soft sigh. Do you want to go back to sleep? If you're hungry, I'll ask Brent to deliver breakfast. Do you have anything scheduled for today? When are we going back? Now, Olivia just wanted to leave as soon as possible. She knew that Wayne must have set up an extensive trap outside. So, she wouldn't be so foolish that she would try to make sure whether Undecim had died or not. She didn't have too much to do with him, anyway. They just partnered up twice, and they weren't even friends. Their mission had failed this time, so she only wanted to go home as soon as possible. It was only then that she could feel more grounded. There's a meeting between the 5 countries for the whole day. Then, I'll come back at night to have dinner with you. We'll go back tomorrow morning. Ethan told Olivia the schedule clearly, but a faint sorrow still lingered in his eyes. Olivia smiled at him. I'll prepare your outfit for you, all right. Sure. As always, Olivia picked out his clothes for him and styled his hair. After that, she deftly tied his tie for him. Brent had also prepared for Olivia a white handmade dress of heavy work. It looked simple, but a closer look revealed the complicated patterns on the dress, which were purely embroidered by human hands. The dress took 3 months to make. Olivia wore a pair of medium high heels to go with the dress. She also wore a pearl necklace on her neck. She had applied light makeup on her face. After her night with Ethan, she looked even more charming than a flower. Remembering Ethan's habit in the past, Olivia subconsciously drew boundaries with him. You guys should go first. Later on, ask Kelvin too. Ethan was standing at the staircase as he extended a hand to her. Liv, from today onward, be it filled with thorns or flowers, we'll walk any path together. Olivia met his cold yet serious gaze. In the past, her greatest wish was to boldly stay by his side. She didn't expect her wish to be fulfilled after their divorce. She hesitated for a moment. In the end, she placed her fingers on Ethan's palm. As they held hands, he gently closed his fingers around her smaller hand. She angled her body to sneak a glance at Ethan, but he caught her. In the act, she hastily looked away. I'm your man, so you can look at me all you like. Why are you hiding? With that, he pulled her into his embrace. He then wrapped his arms around her waist and kissed her. A breeze blew past, scattering cherry blossom petals on them. Olivia felt a little embarrassed. Reaching out, she hit him lightly. Mind your image. As soon as she looked up, she saw the cold face of Wayne, who was walking toward them. Chapter 1284. Wayne spotted the woman in Ethan's arms at a glance. The woman's face was as exquisite as a doll, and it was tinted with an embarrassed blush at that moment. Her cheeks were slightly pink, just like peach blossoms. Her white dress complemented her well. She looked charming and gentle, and her fair neck looked extremely beautiful. When she met Wayne's gaze, she looked even more embarrassed now. She muttered quietly, I told you I don't want to do it. Now look at you. Holding her hand to his lips, Ethan planted a kiss on her hand. He didn't hide the love he felt for her as he said, What's wrong with kissing my own wife? When he said that, he raised an eyebrow as he looked at Wayne. You won't mind, will you, Mr. Maxwell? Olivia was exasperated at Ethan's pettiness. After learning that Wayne had feelings for her, Ethan never once let her go last night. Wayne recalled the information he read about Olivia, which stated that she once had a child, but she miscarried. After she divorced, she miscarried again. So, even today, the couple never had any children. It was different from Ophelia's blissful description of her 4 children. Even though her figure looked a little like Ophelia's, there was a world of difference between them in other aspects. Olivia was a woman who hadn't even graduated from college and had become a housewife instead. How could she have such amazing medical skills? Wayne calmly looked away from her as he replied coldly, I don't mind it at all. She has traveled far to get here, and I've specially prepared some programs for her as compensation. I'm truly sorry for what happened last night. Olivia originally just wanted to spend the whole day in Ethan's room, and then they would leave tomorrow. She didn't want to get too involved with Wayne. But since Wayne had put it like that, she would look a little guilty if she declined. So, she leaned against Ethan as she smiled gently, saying, "Won't it be too much trouble for you, Mr. Maxwell?" Her voice was soft and tender, which was completely different from Ophelia's. Ophelia had a foul temper, and she would scream at Wayne and insult him without warning. "Oh, of course not, ma'am. There were some unhappy dealings between us in Arlandia, and I want to take this opportunity to resolve our past grudges. I am the host, after all, so of course, I should give everyone the best treatment available." Holding Olivia in his arms, Ethan said in a stern voice, "Liv is a reserved woman, and she rarely attends these events with me. Programs are fine, but don't overdo it in case you startle her. She's very timid." "Understood. This way, please." Wayne watched the two get into the car. From the back, Olivia looked just like Ophelia in terms of figure and height. However, Ophelia had always walked boldly, whereas Olivia looked like a shy little rabbit. Almost the entirety of Olivia's body was clinging to Ethan. Wayne wondered if he was overthinking it. Last night, he had searched the whole place, but he never found Ophelia. That woman seemed to have disappeared into thin air. So, Wayne had no choice but to examine Olivia again. The two got into the car. The car windows were kept open to allow for ventilation. Through the half-open window, Wayne could see the two, but he didn't know what they were saying to each other. As if trying to please Ethan, Olivia planted a kiss on Ethan's cheek. She looked very compliant, and she reminded Wayne of a kitten he had adopted in the past. The kitten was very soft, and it would ask for hugs all the time. When he picked it up, the kitten would rub against his chest. It was extremely friendly. If it were Ophelia, Wayne recalled his aggressive behavior that night when he smashed the beer bottle, and wished that he could stab himself. Meanwhile, Ethan reached out and placed his hand on the back of Olivia's head, kissing her. The car windows were raised at that moment, shielding the two from Wayne's gaze. Chapter 1285. Ever since Olivia woke up in the morning, she could feel that something was weighing on Ethan's mind. When they had just gotten into the car, she noticed the worried look on his face. So, she took the initiative to give him a peck on the cheek. "Why are you so upset?" Ethan hesitated to speak. "It's nothing. If you don't tell me, I'll kiss you until you do." "You're so naughty." Ethan deepened the kiss. Things were almost going out of hand, so Olivia shoved Ethan away. She leaned her head against his shoulder, squeezing her fingers in between Ethan's. She said, "We're not bound by marriage, but after Dad died, you're the person closest to me in this world other than the kids. Ethan, can you please tell me what you're thinking about?" Ethan curled his fingers, tightly holding her hand in his. He stared straight at her as he said, "You're my Liv, and you're also, Septem." Olivia stiffened. "You knew." The newest S-class mission from the Black Ravens was to obtain the ring. The person who accepted the mission was Septem. "To be honest, I've been investigating you a long time ago. You're the one who dealt with Golden Shark, right? After he was poisoned, someone killed Golden Shark, who had run away. Also, with his method, they lopped off Golden Shark's head and posted it on the dark web." Olivia didn't deny it. "It was me. I wanted to figure out who it was that tried to kill me back then. Even if I can't get any clues, she might come back when she hears that I'm still alive. It's in places like this that I can get information as soon as possible, and I can trace her too." Ethan said, "Liv, I told you that I'll help you look into it. Why didn't you believe me? Why would you rather risk your life to get to this point?" "I just didn't want anything to affect our relationship anymore. If this person is an important family member to you, just like Leia, then even if your heart aches for me, you'll still point the gun at me at critical moments." Olivia's exquisite face was calm. "I don't want to go through that painful experience ever again. It's not that I don't believe you, I just want to trust myself instead of relying on others." Ethan let out a light sigh. In the end, it was all his fault. Putting an arm around Olivia's shoulders, he apologized. "Liv, no matter what happens in the future, I will never point a gun at you anymore. I was in the wrong in the past. Now, you've become so brilliant and outstanding. I'm worried that you'll disappear from my world someday. I'm also worried that to you, I'm just a mission to be accomplished, just like Wayne. There are no bonds between us. I fear that. It was only then that Olivia understood what Ethan was troubled about. Lifting her head, she looked at Ethan, who was wearing the mask. Even though only his mouth was exposed, his jawline was perfect. Reaching out, she traced his face with the tips of her fingers. She ran her fingers along his tall nose and thin lips. Why do you think that there are no bonds between us? You're the children's father, and this fact will never change. No one can take your place, either. I'm not as reckless with my life as you've imagined. Look, I came to you when I was in trouble, right? Olivia rubbed against his neck again. She was as docile as a kitten. I need you so much, do you truly not feel that at all? Ethan. Of course, Ethan couldn't withstand her tender appeals. He pulled her into his embrace. Oh, what do I do with you? Olivia decisively stuck close to him, wrapping her arms tightly around his neck. What do I have to do for you to believe that you have a place in my heart? Liv, let's get married again, okay. Chapter 1286. Ethan used to be a cold and arrogant man. But at that moment, he was extremely humble. I may be a man, but I need a sense of security as well. Marriage is that sense of security I need. Olivia pouted, saying, but marriage doesn't give me a sense of security. It's more like invisible chains to me. The car had already arrived at the destination. Reaching up, Olivia wiped away the lipstick smeared on his thin lips. Then, she smiled faintly. Life like this is enough for me. Then, she took a lipstick from her bag, stuffing it into his hand. Fix my makeup for me. The guests from other countries had already gotten out of their cars. As the host, Wayne chatted with the guests for a bit, but the couple still hadn't gotten out of the car. Wayne asked Ike to lead the guests inside while he walked up to Ethan's car. Brent and the other bodyguards stood beside the car, unmoving. Wayne couldn't suppress his bad temper anymore. When he swung the car door open, he was greeted with quite the scene. Ethan, who had always been at odds with Wayne, was behaving completely differently from Wayne right now. Ethan was holding Olivia's chin with one hand while holding some lipstick with his other. He was earnestly tracing the shape of Olivia's lips. His expression and movements were extremely reverent, as if Olivia was a goddess to him. Olivia pursed her lips and then smiled at him. How do I look, Ethan? Wayne was deeply captivated by Olivia's smile. He never knew that such a beautiful smile existed in this world. Her face was extremely charming, but her eyes were pure and clean like jewels. You always look amazing, Liv. It was only then that Olivia turned to look at Wayne. A distant and courteous look appeared in her eyes as she said, Sorry, my lipstick was smudged just now. Did we delay your time? Wayne looked away. No, for some reason, whenever he was faced with this woman, he could never quite maintain his temper. Ethan strode out of the car and then extended his arm toward Olivia. Then, Olivia got out of the car by holding onto his arm. The two were like a match made in heaven, and they stood out quite a lot. Wayne's gaze fell upon Olivia's face. Ma'am, my subordinates will keep you company today. See you at lunch later. Thank you for going through the trouble, Mr. Maxwell. Olivia behaved openly so that no one could see that she was pretending. Ethan smoothed her hair and then gently pinched her tender cheek. Wait for me. All right. Brent followed Olivia. His job was to protect her. Alan walked up to Olivia. Ma'am, the carriage is ready. Let's go. May I know your name? How should I address you? My name is Tanner. Alan Tanner. I'll be relying on you then, Mr. Allen. Olivia followed Alan into the carriage. It was only then that Olivia realized the huge size of the place she had spent almost 2 weeks in. Also, in the past, she just went back and forth between Royal Hospital and her bedroom. So, the first time she got to sightsee in the castle was when she assumed the identity of Ethan's wife. After getting into the carriage, Alan personally drove it for her. Ma'am, everyone says that you two are divorced, but I can see that you two get along quite well. Was it a fake divorce? Olivia put on a gentle smile. Yes, we filed a divorce in the past because of some upsetting things. After going through a lot, we're back together now. Your love story must be a happy one and totally different from Mr. Maxwell's. It has been so long, but he never got married. He finally found a woman he liked, and he sacrificed a lot for her. But in the end, he found out that she's just a scammer. After a pause, Alan continued, "Ma'am, what would you do if you were tricked?" Chapter 1287. Aware that Alan was testing the water, Olivia wore a bright smile. "If I'm deceived, I'll take it as a lesson. People wise up from experiences. I won't easily trust others anymore." He couldn't find anything off from her flawless face. The series of questions stopped as he began giving her a proper tour of the royal castle. They headed closer to Royal Hospital, where a field of herbs was planted. Flowers bloomed into vibrant colors. Phalum, our national flower. Those bright petals can be taken as medicine after drying them. The fruits and stems can be eaten too. She hummed in response. "I've heard that, 60 years ago, an invasion caused havoc in Carathea, and soldiers filled the streets. There was a drought, so the crops died. A lot of people went to the mountains to forage for vegetables. Phalum has a tenacious vitality. It lives through 4 seasons, and from the petals to the stems, it can be eaten. It sustained a lot of people through that drought. After that, it was bestowed as the national flower." "That's right. You're smart. Things are getting better now. We don't lack money or food. Many youngsters don't know the history of it." He switched the topic. "Here's Royal Hospital. I heard that you practiced medicine. Would you like to visit the place? Various herbs are planted inside." Olivia had guessed that it was coming from him. If she turned down the offer, it might be too obvious. Left with no choice, she accepted it. "I did practice medicine, trained to be a surgeon. But I quit school due to personal issues. I'm afraid I'm not that knowledgeable in traditional medicine." "Don't worry about it. There are a few traditional practitioners in the Royal Hospital. You can talk to them." "Sure." She was curious about what else Alan had up his sleeves. There was no way they could still coax her into admitting that she was Ophelia, she believed. "We made some pear syrup candies today. It's one of our local specialties. Would you like to give it a try?" "Yes." She halted in her tracks, waiting for him to lead the way. Obviously, it was a test by Alan. If it was Ophelia, she would have turned toward the restaurant's direction instinctively. Unbeknownst to him, Olivia had managed to prevail over her reflex action with control. Aside from being a daring character, being meticulous was one of the criteria to be a S-rank assassin. "This way, please," he invited. After barely taking a few steps, someone called from behind. "Dr. Ophelia, Dr. Ophelia." Olivia almost turned around in response. Calmly, she initiated a conversation with Alan. "Are these herbs? If you hadn't told me, I would have thought that they were ordinary plants. Look how pretty the flowers are. Can we grow it indoors?" The shouting of the name echoed louder until Marvin patted her shoulder. He ran to her front, huffing, "Dr. Ophelia, why did you ignore me? I was calling for you." "You, who are you?" He stared at the gorgeous woman in a daze. Alan chided, "Dr. Dooley, what are you doing? This is the Arlandian Admiral's wife." "The Admiral's wife." Marvin scratched his head, awkward. "I'm sorry for mistaking you for the wrong person. Your back resembles a doctor from Royal Hospital." Olivia let out a warm smile. "It's fine. You were calling for me. I thought you were looking for someone else." Her pristine smile melted his heart, putting him in a trance. Chapter 1288. Alan gave Marvin a kick in the shin. "Stop disturbing her and leave." The pain woke Marvin from his trance. "Sorry, I shall get out of your hair right away." "Oh, Alan, why hasn't Dr. Ophelia clocked in for work yet?" No one in Royal Hospital knew what transpired last night. It pricked Olivia's guilty conscience because they truly saw her as a friend. "Cut it out. Leave," Alan urged. Once Marvin was far away from them, Alan turned to face Olivia. "Sorry about that. It's fine. It's normal to take a person as someone else," she acknowledged and followed him. His brows furrowed. Despite the series of tests, Olivia didn't give the game away. Not even a hint. A pungent perfume permeated the air, reminding him of the distinctive herbal scent coming from Ophelia. Unfortunately, Olivia now gave off a floral scent. Perfume gained wide currency from women. Thus, he couldn't jump to conclusions simply because of a scent. The hospital director, Grant Tanner, welcomed Olivia in person upon learning of her visit and decided to give her a tour around the place. While she enjoyed the pear syrup candies, Alan pulled Grant to a corner. "Uncle Grant, did you smell that? What's that scent from her?" "A mixture of a few flowers and sandalwood. It's strong and gives off a dominating vibe. I don't know much about perfume, though. Do you smell anything herbal?" "Nope." Grant wiggled his head. "By the way, where did Dr. Ophelia go? Look at the time. She hasn't come to work yet." Alan didn't know where to start off with the scammer incident. He wore a deadpan face. "Stop asking about her. She's a scammer. She won't return anymore." "Scammer? What did she scam?" Grant couldn't follow. "I didn't notice any ingredients gone missing. I'll have Marvin check the inventory. See if the 1,000-year-old ginseng was stolen or not." Words failed Alan. He watched Olivia through the glass door. The latter took sips of a bowl of soup, her movements filled with elegance like that of a rich woman. Ophelia often ate her meal with Marvin, sitting on the flight of stairs. No one could lump her together with the formidable Mrs. Miller. Although Alan wished for Olivia to be Ophelia, the result of his testing told him otherwise. The meeting ended in the afternoon. Alan brought Olivia to a hearing regarding Carathia's history. Ethan walked out and happened to see her bending over to pluck some flowers. He scooped her by the waist, pulling her into his embrace and plucking a purple flower to tuck it behind her ear. Her arms naturally interlaced with his. "Is the meeting over?" "Yup. Did I keep you waiting?" "No, I just came back." Ethan loved it whenever she acted soft. His finger traced along the bridge of her nose. "Let's go have lunch." Treating everyone else invisible, they left with his arm around her waist. The others almost had their jaws drop onto the ground. "Is that General Sova? When he came to visit 2 years ago, I specially gathered a few pretty ladies for him. But all of them were driven out of the room. Rumors had it that he likes men. I thought he was gay." Another guest, who shared a similar experience, chimed in, "Don't get me started. I found him a few men, from macho ones to gentle-looking ones. Every single one of them was scared away with swollen faces. It was brutal. I didn't expect the famous General Sova to be henpecked by his wife." Chapter 1289. Ethan could overhear the conversation. Olivia nudged him by the arm, whispering into his ear, "Henpecked by your wife, huh? I gladly take that as a compliment." He pulled her into his embrace. His overt advances rendered her cheeks red while he was unbothered. His fingers pinched her cheek lightly. "Why are you still so shy? You're not a kid anymore." Olivia had always been shy when it came to this kind of thing. After all, they kept their relationship under the radar when they first got together. It was never disclosed publicly, so she couldn't get used to it in a short time. Wayne, who walked out of the room, watched the couple share sweet nothings. Ethan said something that made her blush. Wordlessly, Wayne withdrew himself from the crowd. Alan walked up to him and lowered his voice to report. "I tested her. She's not Ophelia." Wayne bit a piece of cigarette, his eyes indecipherable. "Are you sure?" "Yes. I tested her in many ways, but she didn't show any reflex reaction." Alan sighed. "I wish she was Ophelia, too. But too bad, she's not her." A lighter clicked, burning the tip of Wayne's cigarette. He inhaled the other tip before breathing out a circle of smoke. His voice was hoarse as a result of a white night spent. "Just where has she gone to?" As though she had never existed in the first place, Ophelia disappeared in thin air last night. "We'll find her. I've asked someone to seal off the hot spring." Wayne discarded the cigarette and headed for the ballroom. There was a seat arranged for Olivia right next to Ethan's. The guests were free to have lunch. Without the reporters around, the atmosphere was rather light-hearted than usual. Ethan gave everyone a cold disposition so others didn't dare to talk to him. They knew his vile temper very well. He rarely showed up on such occasions. Even if he attended, he would leave right after he did what he should. Now that a woman was sitting next to him, all eyes were on them. The supposed gay admiral was devouring shrimp, dipping them in sauce to feed the woman. Her eyes narrowed at a single bite of it. Tears began swarming her eyes, and the tip of her nose was red. "It's spicy." She looked at him with watery eyes. Hurriedly, he handed her a glass of orange juice, and she swigged it. "It's all your fault. Why did you dip them in so much spicy sauce?" "Sorry, my bad. Please forgive me," he responded apologetically. The guests around them gushed. "I'm blind. What about you? Gosh, how I wish I could kick them out of here." Wayne initially thought that it was an act, but Ethan's eyes held genuine affection. Besides, no one could compel Ethan into putting up an act unless it was done out of will. According to the information, Olivia was described as a bubbly woman. It wasn't weird for her to act all cute in front of her lover. Wayne massaged his temple. Was he overthinking it? His watchful gaze didn't go unnoticed by Olivia, who thought he should let go of those unhelpful thoughts by now. A sudden pinch by the waist pulled her back from her thoughts, and she met Ethan's icy eyes. After the meal, he put off the following schedule. Since the agreement was clinched, he decided to spend the rest of the day with her. As soon as they lay foot into the room, he pinned her against the wall and kissed her aggressively. Chapter 1290. Ethan was so rough that he didn't even close the window. Keen-eyed, Wayne could see how Olivia was pinned with her hands raised over her head by Ethan from the tower. Red crept up her cheeks, and she craned her neck, all heated by Ethan's touch. He carried her to the bedroom. The night was still young for them. Wayne lit a cigarette. Ethan liked Olivia more than the rumors had it. Acting could be fake, but not the gaze. Ethan's eyes were smitten with love. It was 3 p.m. by the time Olivia woke up. The ruined dress on the floor elicited a frown between her brows. It was such a pretty dress. Ethan, who smelled like mint after a bath, planted a kiss beneath her ear. "I'll buy you another one. You can buy as many as you fancy. Really, from now onward, my time is yours. Let's go. I'll take you to the capital." They changed from their tailored outfits into matching couple sets. He removed his mask. Then, they explored the exotic place with their hands intertwined. When they bypassed a tailored wedding dress shop, Olivia marveled at the wedding dress on display for a moment. It was a regret buried in her heart, and he was very well aware of that. He owed her a wedding. "Liv." His voice pulled her mind back from wandering miles. "Don't misunderstand me. I don't want to get married. I was looking at that lady." A newlywed couple could be seen through the floor-to-ceiling window. The lady, clad in a white wedding dress, held a bouquet of flowers while walking toward a man gracefully with a smile. What a perfect and lovely match. "Envious." Ethan wrapped her hand with his. "I can give you." She shook her head, interrupting him. "I'm never envious of someone wearing a wedding dress after the divorce. She's all dolled up merely for the hell awaiting her." It broke his heart to hear that. His lips parted, but nothing came out of them. Olivia was right, and her words couldn't describe the true agony of the experience. Those days weren't only bitter and painful, it was pure hell. He hugged her gently, and the newlywed couple happened to be hugging each other too. Marriage was an inevitable stage in life for everyone. Ethan understood why she was reluctant to remarry him. He hurt her so deeply that she had lost faith in marriage itself. "I'm sorry, Liv." Her heart sank into the pit of an abyss the moment that bullet hit her wrist. It broke the core of their marriage. The night dawned, and Wayne received a bunch of pictures. It was pictures of Ethan and Olivia hugging at the corner of a street, shopping, eating, and kissing like a couple madly in love. No signs of acting at all. Wayne couldn't find anything off about it. Ethan and his wife were returning to their country tomorrow, Mr. Maxwell. "I know. But there was nothing that he could do about it. There were no signs of Ophelia and no evidence that proved Olivia was Ophelia. If this went on, once the plane took off, Wayne and the others wouldn't be able to stop her from leaving anymore. However, evidence was needed to detain her. They were back to square one. Wayne shut his eyes, massaging his hurting head. Ike brought over the medicine. "Ophelia left you a prescription for the next 3 months before she left. Mr. Grant said that it is beneficial for you. Mr. Maxwell, you must look after yourself." Annoyed, Wayne flung the bowl onto the floor,